Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for One Piece episode 898. And to start off, the episode picks up where it left off with Luffy and Zoro basically bickering over Zoro wanting to take a closer look at Katetsu II, and Luffy acting like a selfish child who doesn't want to give up his new toy. Well, I personally, and that scene, just saying it personally, that scene, I was screaming at the screen going, Luffy, give Zoro the damn sword. You don't know what the fuck you're doing with it. Like, seriously, that's even when he was like using just it as a way to, even when he wasn't even using it, I was like, Luffy, you don't know what you're doing. Give Zoro the. Even when he was fighting with it, supposedly, I was like, Luffy, you don't know what you're doing. Give Zoro the damn sword. He knows what he knows. He knows how to use swords. You don't. Like, it's weird. It's weird for me to get, like, not necessarily frustrated at something. It's weird for me to get frustrated at something like that. But that scene had me going, just give Zoro the sword, okay, Luffy. I forgot how much the scene annoyed the crap out of me, even when I read in the manga. But like I said, I think at some point, just the fact that Luffy has Katetsu II now, I think this is kind of building on that at some point that we are going to see Zoro like pretty much wield both Katetsu II and Katetsu III, and I think, and like I said, I think I know how that specifically is going to play out in a way. It's just a matter of waiting and knowing when it'll happen, I suppose. Also, going into an episode like this, where the focus is on Hawkins, it quickly became a thing for me. Where as a manga reader, all I could do was basically think. All I could do was basically think of how frustrating a character he's going to become as this arc continues, and I mean that it's going to become so hard. It's going to become so hard to pin down what Basil Hawkins is planning. Until the manga actually reveals it. Which, yeah, the manga has not revealed yet what the hell Hawkins, or even for that matter, Apu is planning, or even Drake, who he hasn't even made much of an appearance in this, but Hawkins, he's one of the more frustrating characters in this arc for sure. I mean, in a way you could argue it's compelling that we don't know what he's planning, but at the same time, it's like it does reach a point where you start to wonder what is he doing here. Now it was. But pretty much for now, it was kind of cool in order to see how much he's developed his powers and skills during this time skip, and I especially like that scene where we see how he's harnessed his powers into his sword now, and even just mastered his powers to such a degree where the damage transfer is basically instantaneous. Because before, I think there's a little bit of a. I think before he actually had to get damaged in order for his powers to work, but here he doesn't even need to get damaged anymore in order to transfer his powers, which I like. One thing I also really liked that I never thought about until now is how Hawkins' deck of cards finally became like a weapon of choice, and we see how effective they can be in a combat situation. Because before with Hawkins' deck of cards, they really just felt like a prop that he pretty much that he used to measure an opponent's strength. But now it's seen as an actual weapon. Although at the same time, we pretty much also learn as to why Hawkins probably doesn't use them a whole lot as in combat, because as we see every time when he uses his cards. When he uses cards in a combat situation, it's basically like playing a bit of a game of roulette. Like he doesn't know what card he's gonna get. So it's what card he's gonna get and if it's gonna be useful or not to him. So it's just kind of cool just to see something small like that as well pretty much play into this episode as well. Now, speaking of Hawkins' devil fruit, we finally learn its name, which is which is the straw fruit. And I'll be honest, the name itself, while it makes sense, obviously, considering that he controls these straw dolls and whatnot, just learning the devil fruit's name is the straw fruit also weirdly kind of felt a little underwhelming. And maybe it was just the high expectations, because when I expected the name to be like the voodoo fruit or something, but yeah, it's the straw fruit, and this isn't just an anime thing either. I remember hearing its name in the manga for the first time too. I did feel strangely underwhelmed that the name is just the straw fruit, but in either case, this episode does give us full disclosure of his powers, and with it came something very interesting, because with this episode, and every time and Hawkins using his powers, every time Hawkins does use his powers in this episode, there was this very epic but heavy atmosphere, because each scene where Hawkins uses his powers, it felt like the scene had such weight to it, you could actually see how pretty much powerful the pretty much constructs or how powerful his devil fruit actually is. It really added to that whole sense of, okay, yeah, this is how powerful Hawkins is for sure. Now, getting into the art and animation, obviously I can say with certainty that this episode, barring a couple of minor hiccups here and there, was definitely better. Meaning that meaning the fact that the art and animation was better in this episode, it more or less confirms that from last week, that they definitely avoided like going all in last week in order to make this episode look good. And trust me, the episode it looked very good. Like, again, barring a few mishaps, it was a pretty well animated episode, I'd say. I mean, there were obviously like a few scenes here and there that pretty much felt a little choppy, but yeah, little choppy and even a little slow at times. But yeah, overall, like, art and animation was definitely back. And going off now, I want to mention. And one thing specifically I want to mention about the art and animation this week, though, is going off what I was saying about Hawkins' powers having this epic and heavy atmosphere. You could really tell the animators were having a lot of fun, a lot of serious fun with just how scary they pretty much made things feel every time Hawkins used his powers, because I'm not gonna lie, that there were some legitimate moments in this episode that actually creeped me out. And trust me, I don't get creeped out easily, but there were a few times, honestly, in this episode where I kind of felt a little bit of a shiver crawl up my spine a little bit. It didn't last very long, but it still happened. Like, and that scarecrow and Hawkins creating that scarecrow like construct ended up being the pinnacle of the creepy scenes that were animated. Because seriously, just that whole sequence of Hawkins forming that pretty much scarecrow construct creature, that like just the sequence in itself felt like I was seeing Frankenstein's monster come to life. I'm being dead serious. That's pretty much how I felt from watching this episode. But yeah, so art and animation, like, wow, it was amazing and also creepy as fuck. So yeah, that's pretty much 2 points I got to give the art and animation this week. The only other thing worth mentioning in this episode is the pacing, and the pacing it was mainly focused on the fight between of Luffy and Zoro and fighting Hawkins. So yeah, it was the pacing wasn't great in this episode, but the episode itself was still entertaining. Although one thing that pretty much it didn't affect it to me, but it kind of made me say, oh yeah, this is happening. You idiots need to hurry up. Is when the lion appeared and picked up Zoro and Luffy and said, look, Tama is dying. You need to get her to a doctor now. Like, it made me realize, oh yeah, idiots. Tama's over there and she's kind of sick. You might want to like stop fighting and get her to a damn doctor. Like it was just one of those things where where it reminded me that was going on. But but yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Mr. Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.